Okay, good morning everyone. We are on Sadi Beis and Beis. We have to catch up, so we have to talk a little faster than usual. Zok the Gemara, Boy Rabbi Avin, Chatas ha'of shehichnes dama b'tzavar b'fnei mahu. If you have a chatas of where the actual animal goes b'fnim, inside of the kodesh, so we know that if you carry dam inside of the kodesh, it ruins it, even if you bring it outside afterwards. What happens if it goes in on its own? What does that mean? It means if it goes in while it's still in the animal. We know that we do the malika and then we do the zuika straight from the neck of the animal. So tzavaraka klisharis dami mifsal. The tzavara is like the klisharis and it's the equivalent of bringing it in a klisharis bifnim, which will be a problem. Odil malkit tzavar behema midama marachman avlo bisara. Or it's like the tzavar of a behema, a regular behema for sure, an animal goes into a klisharis. So if that animal walks bifnim and then comes out, for sure you don't ruin the blood because it's part of the neck. But over here, where the neck itself is the klisharis, we consider it to be the klisharis itself, and we consider it that there is no klisharis by a chatas of. Tashma pirchas of v'nechnas alefnim v'chazra kshera ha'ichnisa psula. So you see, by a case of a chatas of, which is killed and it convulsed and walked by itself into lifnim, and it comes out, it's still kosher. What does that imply? If you yourself, a human being, took it and brought it inside and then took it out, it's going to be possible. Because what? It's as if it's in the neck, it's as if it's in a klisharis. It's as if you brought a klisharis into lifnim, you bring it out, it's going to be possible. Says Gemara, diktani pirchas aviyatza ledar v'chazar kshera ha'hotzia psula. Says Gemara, you can't really make that diuk. We know that there's another diuk. By kodesh kadashim, if these go from the north to the south, they're not going to be pasul. We know that the Kodesh Kadashim have to be shachted in the tzafon, in the north. If they go to the darom, they're not necessarily going to be pasul. But it says that if it walks by itself into the darom, so it's not going to be pasul. What's the diuk you're making? That if you would bring it from the north to the south, you would ruin it. And we know that that's impossible. So just like you can't make the diuk over there, that if you bring it from the north to the south, you're going to ruin it. We're not going to make this diuk that if you bring it from the outside to the inside, you're going to ruin it. There's another case where it goes outside. It means right now it's in the Azara. There's two possibilities. It either goes inside into the Kodesh, or it goes outside of the Azara. If it goes outside of the Azara, it's kulei amalo pligi, going to be a problem no matter what. It's pasul. If it goes outside of the Azara, whether you brought it out, whether it goes by itself, it's pasul. The Gemara is talking about outside, therefore when it starts talking about inside, it sort of makes comparisons. But it only mentions pirchas aviyot, it only mentions the case where it's convulsing and going by itself, to compare it to the case of outside. Even if it walks out on its own after being shachted, it's still going to be ruined. That's the chiddush, is that it gets ruined even if it walks out of itself by itself. However, we're just bringing the case where if it walks out by itself, not out of the Azara, but into the Bifnim, if it walks in by itself, then we're comparing the case. But again, you can't make any diukim. The bottom line is you can't make any diukim, and we don't know what the halacha would be. If you actually carry the animal, the chatas of, you carry it bifnim. If you carry it b'chutz, it's nothing to talk about. But if you carry it bifnim, so the question is, does it have to be carried b'klisharis or not? Is the neck considered to be a klisharis or not, since it doesn't need a klisharis, since you're sprinkling directly from the neck? And the Gemara leaves that question unresolved. Says the Gemara, Bar Rabbi Avin, bottom of Sadi Beis Amid Beis, 10 lines up. Nishbach ala ritzpa ve'asva mahu. Now we're talking about a regular animal. So a regular animal, talking about a chatas ha'of still. A chatas ha'of, like we said, does not need a klisharis. You just sprinkle it directly from the neck. So what happens if it falls onto the floor and you gather it? Do you say that it doesn't need a klisharis? As we said, you sprinkle it directly from the neck. What do we remember the halacha is by an animal? By an animal, if the blood goes directly from the neck onto the floor, it passes it. If it goes into the klisharis and then onto the floor, then you can pick it up. So the question is, this neck, again, are we considering the neck of a chatas of a bird, which you're sprinkling directly from the neck? Is that the equivalent of a klisharis? Because in general, by a regular animal, you sprinkle directly from the klisharis. You dip your finger, you dip your finger in. So is it like a klisharis, and when it spills on the floor, it was as if it was already in a klisharis, and therefore now that it spills on the floor, it's going to be okay? Or do you say, or do you say that no, the Torah came along and said there is no such thing as a klisharis by tzavar of, by a bird. Therefore, if it falls on the floor, directly on the floor, it's going to be ruined because there is no klisharis involved. and lemaisa we don't treat the neck as a kli sharis. Amar Rava Tashma yochel yedam chatas of town kibus tamulom marzos. As we're going to talk about more today, you might have thought that a chatas of needs kibus. We said that if the blood goes from a chatas of, it doesn't need kibus, as opposed to if it goes from a chatas behema, whether it's a pnimia or a chutz, it needs kibus. Tamulom marzos. Visa agadaydach mifsal pasul berachmana tepagli daha afsile ba'aver kli. An important klal in general. If the blood is pasul, then it can't make something need kibus. Only something that's not pasul, only kosher dam that gets onto a garment will need kibus. If it's pasul blood that gets onto a garment, it will not need kibus. Kibus means to wash the thing. We're going to talk about that for the next few dapim. Kibus means you need to wash the beged after it gets blood on it. So over here, what are we saying? We're saying that dam chatas ha'of that gets onto a garment needs kibus. It doesn't need kibus. Why? Because of the word zos. But I don't understand. Why do you say it doesn't need kibus because of the word zos? At the end of the day, what? If you're saying mifsal pasul beirachmana, if you say it goes ahead and it gets onto what? It gets onto the floor, and then it gets onto a beged. So what's the reason that it shouldn't need kibus? Not because what? Not because of the word zos, because of the fact that we don't treat it as a kli, because we don't treat the neck as a kli, therefore it ruins it as soon as it falls. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Huna Berei Rav Yoshua. No, b'mad b'kli b'tzavara. No, when it says that we need the word zos, is when there is no time that it's going over the. Here, let's just read in Rashi. I don't want to get complicated. Okay, it's going to be complicated, but let's see Rashi. Again, our question was, is the neck of the chatas of considered like a kli shares, or is it not? If it's like a kli shares and it falls on the floor, then you're allowed to pick it up. If it's not like a kli shares and you're not allowed to put that blood of a animal, of a chatas of into a kli shares and you ruin it, then lemaisa, it falls on the floor, it's going to be pasul. Because even if you pick it up, now you've already ruined it by falling on the floor. So Rava says, we're comparing it to the case of dam chatas of, which falls onto a garment. So the Gemara says that chatas of that falls onto a garment, you don't need kibus because of the word zos. Well, why does it say you don't need kibus because of the word zos? There's another reason you don't need kibus. Why? Typically, la ba'avir kli. Rashi. Typically, 7 lines up. De lo by kibus, balav miyuta de zos. The reason you don't need kibus when it falls onto a garment is not because it says zos. As we're going to see soon, you need, in order for the dam to stay non-pasul, to stay kosher, it needs to be roy lahazah. It means the only dam that can get onto a garment which you then need to wash is if at the time that it got onto the garment, it was roy lahazah, it was fit to be sprinkled, which means that it's non-pasul blood. The Gemara is learning, and again, this is just the touch of what we're about to talk about. The Gemara is saying that when blood falls from the neck onto a beged, so what happens? Right before it hits the beged, it's in the avir of the beged. Right before it hits the beged, it's in the avir of the beged. As we're about to see, there's a machlokes. Maybe when it's on the avir of the beged, it's already on the beged. What would be if the dam was already on the beged, as we're going to see in a second? Dam that goes from one beged to another. When it's on the beged, don't even shake your head. We haven't seen anything yet. When the beged, when the dam is on the beged, so what happens to dam that's on the beged? Can dam on the beged go ahead and be mafsil another beged? Can it go ahead and make you have to wash another beged? No. Once dam is on a beged, that dam is now pasul for being used for hazaya. That dam, as we'll see, if it now splatters onto another beged, the second beged won't necessarily need kibus, because once it hits the first beged needs kibus. But once it hits the first beged, that dam is no longer going to be kosher dam. Well, if you say that the airspace above a beged is like the beged itself, then even before it hits the beged, it's pasul dam, because it says if it landed on the beged. Now you have pasul dam, which is from a beged, which happens to be falling on that very beged that's pasuling it, but you have pasul dam in the airspace, you have dam in the airspace, which is as if it hit the beged. Now when it hits the beged, it's like one beged splattering onto another beged, which is going to be a problem. Clearly what? Clearly the fact that it says that you don't need kibus, not because of that, but you don't need kibus because of the word zos, shows that we're not dealing with kli, and it doesn't have to do with the din of kli by chatas. We don't know how we treat the neck, if we treat it like a kli or not, because again, if it was like a kli, then if it was okay to be in a kli, then the fact that it's over the air of the beged is not going to ruin it. Therefore, we don't have an answer to our question. And Lamaisa, the reason that it's excluded there is specifically because of the word zos. You can't bring any fruit because we're talking about a case where you took the neck and you directly put it on the beged. So there was no time that it was in the airspace. In that specific case, you need zos. But maybe if it was in the airspace, then you wouldn't need zos to exclude it. And Eina Chanami, you could say that a kli ruins the dam. Again, the answer is unclear. Doesn't give us an answer. Barmine Levi. Nitas mi beged lebeged mao. That's why this is, anytime you have Gemara, so usually there's a reason, there's a logical reason why the next part of the Gemara comes where it comes. So the reason this is coming now is because now we started talking about airspace, and now we're going to talk about if it goes from one beged to the next. So again, dam chatas, as I'm applying it, goes splashing onto your shirt, for sure you need to wash that shirt. However, if now it splatters onto the rabbi's shirt, seemingly you don't have to wash that shirt because as soon as it's on your shirt, it's pasul. Except according to one man damar. Barmine Levi, nitas mi beged lebeged mao, mi beged kama itchile lekibus, so dil malo. Once it's on your beged, it needs to be washed, and therefore it's pasul blood, and therefore if it splatters onto the rabbi's garment, he doesn't have to wash it because it was pasul blood. Or dil manat. What's the shaila? Amalei zu shaila ton kibus mimanavshach. No, this one needs kibus for sure. I osva v'kosher hakosher, vi osva pasul anak Rabbi Akivas relay damar haisel shas hakosher v'nisla dama ton kibus. We're not going to go like Rabbi Akiva, but the Gemara is suggesting at this point that maybe this brisa would be like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds that if you have dam that had a shas hakosher, if it was ever kosher, then even when it becomes pasul, it could still pasul other things. So if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, then when it lands on your shirt, it becomes pasul. But now it makes your shirt need kibbutz. When it splatters onto his shirt, even though it's pasul blood splattering onto his shirt, since it had a shas hakosher, you have to wash his shirt as well. It's clearly not like our Mishnah. The Gemara is learning this brisa like that. Our Mishnah said what? Our Mishnah, if you remember, said yesterday that dam chatas, that splatters, it's not going to be, if it's possible, it's not going to need kibbutz. Bein shahai salashas kosher, bein shaloi salashas kosher. That's our Mishnah. But if you go within Rabbi Akiva, then memanav shach you need, because either you say that the blood that lands on your shirt, Maish, is still alive. If it's still alive, that means it can still be used for hazaya. Then if it lands on the rabbi shirt, it's going to be alive still and it's going to ruin it. Or if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, even if the blood is dead, he says dead blood that was once alive will make his shirt bad. But Lamais, if we're not dealing with Rabbi Akiva, then we have a real question. Because then if we assume that the blood stays alive when it lands on your shirt, then Lamaisa, it's going to pasul his shirt, it's going to make it need kibbutz. But if we assume that dead blood, that once it hits your shirt, it can no longer be used to sprinkle, which is a pashup shot, therefore as soon as it lands on the rabbi shirt, it's going to be pasul, because we don't hold the fact that it was once kosher matters. The fact that now it's pasul, you no longer have to wash it. Yes? Hazaya means to sprinkle. Sprinkling. That's the hazaya. Sprinkling. When you take it out of the thing, with taval and you sprinkle it onto mizbeach. Zrika is like hazaya, same thing. Yeah. Says the Gemara, by mine, sorry, am I on the right daf? Yeah. So we don't have an answer. Okay, we don't have an answer, nitas mi beged lebeged, because only within Rabbi Akiva, for sure, he would need to wash his shirt. But not within Rabbi Akiva, we're not sure. If we treat that as soon as it hits the shirt, it's possible, then he doesn't have to wash his shirt. But if we treat it that it's still alive, then he would have to wash his shirt. By mine Rami bar Chama me Rav Chisda. Rami bar Chama asked from Rav Chisda, nitas al beged tame mahu. Now it gets really complicated. Let's say you have good dam, and it goes onto a beged tameh. So your shirt is tameh. Okay, you're wearing it, it's tameh, your tameh, whatever it is, your shirt is tameh. Now the dam goes onto your shirt. Well, now what's the question? The question is, when the dam goes into your shirt, as we'll discuss, well, first of all, if you start getting the whole avir involved, then before it hits your shirt, it gets tameh, that blood. Tameh blood that hits your shirt for sure doesn't have to be washed. The question is, do we look at that blood as being tameh before it hits your shirt? Do we look at that blood as being tameh because the second that it hits your shirt, it becomes tameh? Or do we look at it that there's a split second or millisecond when it hits your shirt before it becomes tameh, or we would say at the same time, right? At the same time, the most pashup shot is that at the same exact time that it hits your shirt, it becomes tameh, but it also hits your shirt. So which one is going to kick in first? The fact that you're chayiv in kibbutz, or the fact that you now have tameh blood? That's the question. Nitas al beged tameh mahu. The fact that you're asking me this question shows that you don't hold like Rabbi Akiva. Because if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, who cares when it became tameh? If it had a shas kosher, even if it became tameh in the avir and then it hits your shirt, you're still going to have to wash it. Because once it had a shas kosher. So the fact that you're even asking me the possibility that you don't want to wash your shirt, when you say, Rabbi, I don't want to wash my shirt, the fact that you're asking me the possibility, clearly you don't hold like Rabbi Akiva. So now that you don't hold like Rabbi Akiva, the question is again, did the blood become tameh before it hit your shirt, in the avir, or the second that it hit your shirt? Or do we say, no, it hit your shirt and at that second it became tameh, but at the very second that it became tameh, it also at the same time hit your shirt, which required kibbutz at the same exact time that it became tameh? That's the question. Says the Gemara, It's only when it's pasul and then it goes onto your shirt. Do you not need? Everybody agrees. If it's pasul and it goes onto your shirt, if the dam is pasul, then you don't need to wash it. But when it goes b'bas achas, it doesn't say that what? We don't say that it's pasul, and therefore you would need kibus. Or you don't need kibus b'manusha because, again, the second that it hits your shirt or when it's in the avir of your shirt, it becomes tameh. Again, you understand, as we're going to see in a second, that there would be a difference between the avir and the second that it hits your shirt. That means even if you're going to argue that in the avir it's going to pasul, then it's going to be a problem. But if you say that let's just say, again, the whole question about it hitting your shirt and the second it hits your shirt is only assuming that the avir is not pasuling the dam. If the avir over the shirt is pasuling the dam, then there's nothing to talk about. Then it becomes pasul before it hits your shirt. Assuming that it doesn't pasul your shirt in the avir, as we'll talk about, then and only then we have a question at the second that it hits your shirt, which one comes first? Does it make your shirt chayav in kibus first? Or does it make the blood tameh first, in which case your shirt would not be chayav in kibus? Right? Clear? Okay. Says the Gemara, Amalei pluktu Rabbi Lezer Rabbanan aliba derabba u'k'shedem kamekaretz Abaye. Titania, it's within Abaye. We only have an answer within Abaye. Oh, I didn't realize that the first time I saw it. Titania, Rabbi Lezer Omer mechata shenitmu mitaharin sharei nida mazin aleha. Need a prop, or else I can't do this. Okay. Are you done with that cup? Give me that cup, please, for a second. Just give me the cup for 1 second. I need a prop.
You can have a zip if you want.
I don't want a sip. I need a prop. This is mechatas, okay? This is mechatas that we're going to pour. How do you drink this? This is mechatas that you go ahead and pour onto a person who became tamei meis. Says Rabbi Elazar, mechatas shenitmu. This mechatas, which is tamei, you can still pour onto a person. Tamei mechatas you could pour onto a person and make them tahor. How do I know that? Shaharei nida mazin aleh. Because a nida, you can be mazin aleh. What's the comment? Rashi says what? What happens by a nida? A nida who becomes chayiv in mechatas, what happens? She gets sprinkled by the mechatas. Now one can argue that the second that it hits her, what happens? The second that it hits her, well, let's see a second. Let's assume, the Gemara is going to assume in a second that the avir. Let's just spill it. Let's just play this out. So you have a dam, you have a nida. Amar Rabba. Rabbi Lazar b'shitas Rabbi Akiva Rabba Amar de'amra havaras kli al gabi makom tamei kemunach dami. Rabbi Akiva holds that once something goes on top of a makom tamei, it's as if it rested on the makom tamei. Did not hayomei chutz the tanur v'sheretz b'tanur. If you're standing by a oven and there's a sheretz in the oven, lehoshid yado lechalon. So here's the oven, the camera. And there's a chalon on the other side of the oven, and there's a sheretz inside the oven. So I reach over, and I take something, and I pass over the oven. So there's sheretz, and I pass right over the sheretz. What does Rabbi Akiva say? Rabbi Akiva is mitame, v'chamim is mitarin. So Rabbi Akiva says it's tame. Why? Because when I pass over a sheretz, I make the thing that I'm holding tame. Plug it into the nida case now. When that water, which is the mechatas, passes over the nida's head, before it hits her, what happens to that water? It becomes tameh. What's the halacha? The halacha is that when she spills a mechatas over her head, and then she goes to the mikveh takes care of her mechatas, takes care of her tumas meis, and it takes care of her nida. She's tameh because she's a nida, and because she's tameh from a mace. So now it goes over her head, and it tames her. Again, we're not talking about a regular person, because then you're going to say every single time, okay? But it tames her. We're really concentrating on the tuma of nida. We're not assuming that every single person, when you spill the mechatas, it becomes tameh before it hits them. Here, we're specifically assuming that it's becoming tameh al the fact that she's a nida. So what do we know the halach is? We know the halach is that you could pour the mechatas on a nida, and she becomes tahor after she goes in the mikvah. Says Rabbi Akiva, the fact that you could pour mechatas on top of a nida, and it works, what does that prove? That proves that if you had a bottle of tameh mechatas, you could pour it on anybody. Because the fact that she becomes tahor with mechatas that goes over her head by a nida, the nida part of her is making the mechatas tameh before it hits her. That's the equivalent of taking a tameh bottle of mechatas and pouring it over a regular person's head. The fact that it works by a nida proves that if you have a bottle of mechatas that's tameh, you can pour it on somebody's head and be mitahar them. That's only if you learn like Rabbi Akiva, that when you pass something over, it becomes tameh. Because if you don't pass something over, if you pass something over and it doesn't become tameh, then you have no proof. Again, he's saying, if I have a bottle of mechatas that's tameh, I can pour it on a person and they'll become tar. How do I know that, says Rabbi Akiva? I have a proof from nida. Because a nida, when you pour the water over her head, it becomes tameh before it hits her head, and yet it works. Well, if you don't hold like Rabbi Akiva, and you hold that it doesn't become tameh before it hits her head, then you have no proof. Then the reason by nida that it might work is because at the exact second that it hits her head is also when it becomes tamei. But one can argue that when it happens at the same exact time, going back to our question, when it happens at the same exact time, maybe the halachas will be different. But I have no proof that if I have a bottle of tamei mechatas that I can go ahead and pour it onto a person's head. The fact that he holds that it's okay, that you could take a bottle of mechatas that's tamei and pour it on somebody's head from nida, proves that he holds like Rabbi Akiva that the airspace is going to ruin the water.
What's the measure of airspace? What are we talking
Okay,
about?
so I don't know if it's 4 tfachim or whatever it is. I don't know exactly, but it's clearly before it hits her head. The bottom line is that when it is that at the time, the moment that it hits her head.
It could be still in his hand, though. You're saying.
No, it can't.
Why
No.
not?
Oh, in that case, it's still in his hand. But the point is.
Already in his hand before he even sprinkles her. Dull it
Kavachomer. No. It's not tummy in his hand. Why is it tummy in his hand? It's only tummy in his hand because he passed it over the thing. The point is that we're comparing the case of the tanur that he holds that anything that passes over airspace makes it tummy. So in that case, he happens to be holding it. In this case, you happen to have sprinkled it, and as soon as it passes over her head, it becomes tamei. You have tamei water landing on her head. That clearly shows that I could take, in any case, by a non-need, I could take tamei water and pour it over their head.
And the baguette?
So again, so we have to plug it into the baguette. We're not up to that yet. Says the Gemara, "V'ha pligi." Do Rabbi Akiva savar kemunach dami? V'Rabbanan savri lav kemunach dami. Rabbanan say that it's not kemunach dami. When it passes over a person's head, it's not like it hit the head. It's not until it actually hits the head that it's going to work. Therefore, you have no proof from nida, because again, nida. It says over here, Rabbi Lezer says mechata shnitu mitarin. It doesn't quote it, but Rabbanan hold that mechata that's tamei will not be mitarin. And because they have no proof from nida. Because by nida, the case by nida is that the water is hitting her head, it's being mitar her because at the second that it hits her head, it's still tahor. According to Rabbi Akiva, that's not true. It's tamei, it hits her head. The given is that nida works. So if you say that it was tamei water when it hit her head, because the airspace was tamei according to Rabbi Akiva, then you have a proof. Abai asks a question. The problem is that we see elsewhere that Rabbi Akiva holds differently. That he holds that it's specifically when you have something and you pass it over the tanur, will you make it tamei? But if you sprinkle something over the tanur, it will not make it tamei. And seemingly in our case, when you're sprinkling it over the nida's head, he should agree that it doesn't become tamei until it hits her head, and therefore you have no proof. Where do we see this? Modr bekiva behazah, by sprinkling, shevira kli cheres tamei. Agabi mishkav u'moshav tamei shehi tahora shein lecha davar shetemitame lemala kilamata lekizayis min hamesu shar kol hamehalin leisuye even hamenugas. Only very specific cases where if you sprinkle it, it's going to ruin it. If you sprinkle over a tamei mace, if you sprinkle over an actual dead body, then it's going to ruin it going all the way up to Shemayim. Then the sprinkling will ruin it. But a regular case where you sprinkle it over a tamei person, like a nida, even Rabbi Akiva agrees that it won't ruin it. So first the Gemara says, El Amar Abaye, Dekule Amalav Kimunach Dami. So everybody agrees that when you sprinkle it, as you clearly see from Rabbi Akiva in the second brisa, by sprinkling, you clearly see that when you sprinkle something over a tamei thing, it doesn't ruin it. Elawat, V'hacha, in the case of the tanor, B'haka Mifligi, to Rabbi Savar Gazrinan Shema Yanuach, Rabbanan Savar Lo Gazrinan. What's the difference between the case where I'm taking the thing and putting it over the tanur, carrying it over the tanur, and the case where I'm sprinkling over the tanur? Again, Rabbi Akiva said when I sprinkle over the tanur with the sheretz in it, it doesn't ruin the water. But when I carry it over, it ruins the water. What's the difference? The case of the carrying it over is a special gzeira. In general, when it passes over something that's tamei, it doesn't ruin it. The case of carrying it is a special gzeira because since I might end up putting it down when I'm carrying it over, I'm going to make a gzeira, since I might put it down, I'm going to make a gzeira that even if I carry it over, I'm going to make it tamei. But when I sprinkle it, kevan de nafak, once it leaves my hands, I have no control over it. If I have no control over it, I'm not worried that it's going to go into the tanur. Therefore, in general, when you sprinkle it over, it doesn't ruin it. But now again, if Rabbi Akiva actually holds that, so now again, what he said makes no sense. Because if he holds that it doesn't metame something till it actually lands, and the airspace doesn't metame it, so how can he say that I can use tamei mechatas water in order to make somebody tahor, and the proof is from nida? Nida is a totally different case. Nida is a case where it's not becoming tamei as it passes over her head. It's only becoming tamei when it hits her head, but maybe at the second that it hits her head, first it's metar her, and then it becomes tamei. But how can I prove that if I have a bottle on the table of tamei mechatas, I can use that to be metar somebody? Says the Gemara, what's Rabbi Akiva talking about? Sorry, what's Rabbi Lazar, therefore, what's his reason? For Rabbi Lazar, Rabbanan b'mai kamifligi. What are they arguing about, therefore, in the mechatas? How can Rabbi Lazar possibly say that you have a proof from nida that you can go ahead and take tamei water and use it? Amar Abaye bedanin tuma keduma mituma shebeosa shah kamifligi. Mar savadarin umar savar ein danin. Rashi. Bidan in tuma keduma. Third line wine Rashi. Could go mechata shenitmu lifnei hazasa. And again, what are we trying to figure out? We have this bottle of mechatas that was tamei. Mituma shebaos hasha. Can you learn from tuma shebaos hasha? Go nazas nida shetuma samayim vazal bain ke'achad kamifligi. The question is, can you learn tuma? And again, without getting into too much of the details, the question is, can you learn tuma, a bottle of tamei mechatas, from the case where it comes together? Now again, the given is that by a nida, it works. And by a nida, the way we're learning now, if you're not assuming that the airspace is tamei, by a nida it's coming together. It's hitting her head, it's becoming tamei, the water, and it's being matar her at the same exact time. That's a given. The question is, can we extrapolate and extend that to learn to a case where the thing is totally tamei in the first place? Rabbi Zev says yes, the Rabbanan say no. Rabbi Zev says danin, and the Rabbanan say no. Rashi, Rabbi Zev savar danin, Rabbanan savar ein danin. You can learn. So you can compare cases of before it was tamei, you can learn from the case where it came together. Now flip it around. If you can learn between each other, when a case, according to Rabbi Zev, you can learn one from another before it becomes tamei, from when it's ban ke'acha. Now take our question at the top of the daf and flip it. Take our question. Now what was the question? It went from what? It hit the beged tamei. What's that a case? That's the case. We want to know what happens when it happens at the same time. Well, what would happen if tamei dam fell onto a beged? What would happen if tamei dam fell onto a beged? Would it need kibbutz? No. So just like in the other case, by the dam nida, you're learning one from the other. It happens to be you're learning the other one from the other. In the case of the dam nida, you're learning what? You're learning a bottle of tamei mechatas from the case where it hits at the same time. And just like when it hits at the same time, it's going to be okay. Therefore, the tamei bottle will be okay. Now, in our case, you have the opposite. We're asking about the case where it hits at the same time, where it actually hits a tamei beged, and it's happening at the same time, the equivalent of the nida. So where can we learn from? Now, well, we know the given in our case is not the case when it hits at the same time. The given in our case is what? When you have tamei dam. Tamei dam, the given by us, is the difference than nida. The tamei dam by us, the given is what? That when it hits, you don't need kibbutz. So if you can compare the two, then we know that when it hits at the same time, and it happens at the same time, also you wouldn't need kibbutz. That's Rabbi Zev. He's saying that you can compare the two. And the Rabbanan are saying you don't compare the two. And therefore, again, within Abaye, you answered our question. That's what we meant on the top of the Gemara when we said, Plukta de Rabbi Zev Rabbanan aliba de Rabba, the way that Rabba said it, ukidikamitari Abaye. And the way that Abaye just answered. So the answer to our question within Rabba's question and within Abaye's question, within Abaye's answer, is that nitas al beget tamei mahu, nitas al beget tamei. We make the comparison within Rabbi Zev, nitas al beget tamei. Just like if you have tamei dam that falls on your shirt, it doesn't need kibbutz. Therefore, if you have regular blood that falls onto a tamei shirt, you will not need kibbutz because it happens at the same exact time, and you learn from happening at the same exact time from the case of when it happened beforehand. Rava is not going to help us in our case. Rava is just going to give another answer why Rabbi Zev holds by the nida case it's going to work like that. Rava Amar de kule alma ein danin. You're not danin. If you're not danin, you don't make comparisons. So then, what's Rabbi Zev's reason? I'm just going to explain this quickly because we have to move on. But what's the difference? What is Rabbi Zev talking about? Rabbi Zev holds as follows: that you need a certain shiur in order for the person to become tahor. And the shiurim can be mitzdarfin. So what happens according to Rabbi Zev? When you take regular water and you throw it onto the nida, what happens with the very first part of that drop? Let's say it's even only one drop, and one drop would be enough. What happens to that very first part of the drop that hits her? That water becomes tamei. That water is not enough to be mitaher because he needs a shiur. He needs a shiur of an entire drop. So what happens? That becomes tamei, that first drop of water, and when the end, or this part of the first drop, when the rest of the first drop hits her, that's already tahor water, right? Because it's hitting what? It's hitting the tamei water. It's being mitzdaref with the tamei water, and it's making her tahor. Therefore, what do you see? You see that you can take tamei water and use it to be mitaher something. That's his proof. But according to Rabbanan, where you don't need a shiur, so what are they saying? Again, the given is that nida, it works. So what are they saying by Rabbanan? You throw it onto the woman, and it works. So you have no proof about tamei water. I don't know what the halacha would be if I had a bottle of tamei mechatas. The only reason it works there is because the second that it hits her, she's mitayer because you don't need a shiur. and the second it hits her is matar. It's happening all at the same time, but I have no proof to what would happen if I had a bottle sitting on the table. Only within Rabbi Lazar, where the tamei water that hits, or where the tahor water that hits her, the first part of the first drop becomes tamei. Then it's mistaref because you need a shear with the rest of that drop. Only according to that, where you clearly see that it works, would he tell you that if you have a bottle of tamei water on the table, you can use it for mechatas. Okay, a few more minutes. Says the Gemara, chatas psula. We said in the Mishnah that a chatas psula, Tana Rabbanan, midama, midam kshera velo midam psula. It has to be midama. In order to make your shirt need kibbutz, it needs to be midama. It has to be from dam kshera v'lo midam psula. What does this mean? So Rabbi Kiva says, like we said, Rabbi Kiva mer ha'isala shas kosher v'nifsala dama town kibbutz, lo ha'isala shas kosher v'nifsala dama town kibbutz. Rabbi Shimon omer, like our Mishnah, echad ze v'echad ze in dama town kibbutz. Rabbi Shimon's like our Mishnah, which says that l'maisa, if it's pasul now, it doesn't matter if it was ever shas kosher, it doesn't matter if it was ever good. If it's pasul now, then you don't need kibbutz. But according to Rabbi Akiva, if it had a shas kosher, even if it's pasul now, it will need kibbutz, like we just discussed. My time at Rabbi Shimon. What's the reason of Rabbi Shimon? Because it has two words there: ksiv osa, uksiv midama. Chad lehechad haisel shas kosher, and one for when it didn't have a shas kosher. So the question is, you have two extra words. Everybody agrees you have two extra words: osa and midama. If you have the two extra words, then Rabbi Shimon says, I'm going to learn those two extra words by the chatas blood. One is going to tell us that if it's pasul now, even if it had no shas kosher, it's going to not require kibbutz. And the other one is going to tell me that if it had a shas kosher, it's still not going to require kibbutz. And according to Rabbi Akiva, osa is prat letruma. Rabbi Shimon letamei de amar kachim kalam into unim meriko shtifa v'kol shekain truma. What do you have over here? You have over here, we said in the Pesukim yesterday, you don't just talk about kibbutz, it also talks about washing out and purging a utensil. So the question is, we know that if a chatas gets into a utensil, you have to wash it out, you have to purge it. That's what the Pesukim say. The question is, what happens if truma gets into a utensil? Do you have to purge it or not? So everyone seems to say you don't need to purge truma from a utensil, you can use the utensil without purging it. The question is, what's the source? According to Rabbi Akiva, you need osa to teach me that you don't need to purge truma. Only osa, only the chatas you need to purge out of the utensil, but truma you don't need to purge. But if I'm using osa to teach me that you don't need to purge truma out of the utensil, then I only have one word left. The one word left is going to teach me what? That I don't need kibbutz only if the thing never had a shas kosher. But if it had a shas kosher, I have no word left to tell me that it doesn't need kibbutz. Therefore, if it ever had a shas kosher, it needs kibbutz. But according to Rabbi Shimon, who learned some akava chomer, we don't need a word here to teach me that you don't have to purge truma. I know that by kachim kalim, if they get into a utensil, I don't have to purge it. Kava chomer, truma, which is on a lower level, I don't need to purge. Therefore, I don't need the word osa to teach me that you don't have to purge truma. If I don't need the word osa for truma, I have it extra. If I have it extra, then not only is it teaching me that if something never had a shas kosher, it's not going to need kibbutz. Even if it had a shas kosher, it's still not going to need kibbutz. That's the Gemara over here. Zak the Mishnah. Nitaz minat savar la beged eno ton kibbutz. If it goes straight from the neck onto a beged, it doesn't need kibbutz. Now, we already said by a chatas, it never needs kibbutz, by a chatas oaf. Now we're dealing with a regular behema. What happens by a regular behema, chatas? What do? You shecht it, you collect the blood in the kli shares, then you sprinkle it. We said that if it falls directly on the floor, it ruins it, it's pasul. Therefore, if that would then sprinkle onto your beged, you wouldn't need kibbutz, because it's pasul dam. We're talking about specifically when you put it into the kli shares. Once it's in the kli shares and I start sprinkling it, if it falls onto your beged, then you're going to need kibbutz. But nitas minat savar la beged eno town kibbutz. Let's say it goes directly from the animal's neck onto your shirt. When you're shechting it, it goes onto your shirt. It doesn't need kibbutz, because it only needs kibbutz once it's roi lahazah. When is it roi lahazah, a regular case? When's it roi for sprinkling? When it falls into the kli shares. So it falls into the kli shares, then it gets on your shirt, you need kibbutz. If it goes directly from the neck onto the shirt, you don't need kibbutz. So similarly, if it gets onto the keren, you sprinkle it and then it bounces off onto your shirt, you also don't need kibbutz because you already finished the avoda. It's specifically after it goes into the kli shares before you finish the avoda. And that's why mina yesod, as Rashi says, it doesn't bounce off the yesod. Once you finish all the sprinklings that you need, the leftover blood, the shirayim also, if it gets on you, doesn't need kibbutz. It's only when it's in the kli shares, again, to remember, only when it's in the kli shares before you finish the avoda with it. Once it's out of the kli shares, or it bounces off of something, or you finish the avoda with it, the leftovers will not need kibbutz if it gets on you. Nishbach ala ritzvah v'asfo ein ton kibbutz. If it spills directly on the ritzpah, again, before it goes into the kli, because we know that if it goes into the kli and then spills on the ritzpah and you pick it up, it's still kosher. Therefore, it would need kibbutz. But if it goes directly onto the floor and you pick it up, it doesn't need kibbutz. Why? Because ein ton kibbutz el adoption is kabel b'kli. Just the sum of everything we said. You only need kibbutz if it goes into a kli. V'roy lazah, and at the time that you did that it hits you, it was fit for hazah, which is why again, dam pasol will not need kibbutz if it gets onto you. Says the Gemara, Tanar Rabbanan Yochol Nitas Min Avatzar Lavar Alabeged Yeton kibbutz. You might think it goes straight from the neck and needs kibbutz. Tamalom Asher Yazeh Lo Amarti Lecha Ela B'Roy Lahazah. It has to be roy lazah. We know it's not roy to be sprinkled on the mizbeach until it's in the kli sharis. Tani idoch yochol nitas min akeren min esodi eton kibbutz hamlom asher yazeh prat lezeh shekvar huza. And again, that's why also when it goes onto the keren or when it's leftover blood, you don't need to wash because again, it's only that which is fit. But once you've finished all the sprinklings, you're finished. Nishbach ala ritzpah. If it goes straight onto the ritzpah. Hasulamali, why do you have to tell me that? Ma tam kamar. What do you need the rest of the Mishnah? Just say if it goes onto the ritzpah, you don't need kibbutz. Ein ton kibbutz el adoption is kabel b'kli, because it's explaining why if it goes on the ritzpah, you don't need kibbutz. Ma tam kamar. Ma tam nishbach al ritzpah v'asro ein ton kibbutz. So if you say ein ton kibbutz el adoption is kabel b'kli v'roy lahazia. Fine. So nishbach al ritzpah we understand. What does it mean roy lahazah? What's it adding? It must be adding something when it says roy lahazah. It needs to be fit for hazah. Says the Gemara, what are you excluding? It means there's a certain case where you're going to say that if it gets on you, it's not going to need kibbutz because it wasn't roy lazah. Again, we said if it goes straight from the neck, but are there other cases that it's including? Says the Gemara, yes. It's including a case where you took blood from the animal's neck into a kli shares, but you didn't take enough. So you took half the amount in one kli shares, half the amount in the other kli shares, and you mixed them together. That blood is not roy lazah, since it all needs to come out at you have to have enough of a shear at the first time. If you mix them together, it's not roy lazah. Therefore, if that blood gets on your garment, even after it's in the kli shares, you will not need kibbutz on your garment. Says the Gemara, "L'ma'ute kibel pachos michdei haziyah b'kli zeh." Upachos mikdi haziyah b'kli zeh. Detanya Rav Chalafta bar Shaul Omer kidesh pachos mikdei haziyah b'kli zeh. Upachos mikdei haziyah b'kli zeh lo kidesh. Over there, what's he talking about? He's talking about a case of mechatas. But we're going to extrapolate it to dam. Again, over here we're assuming that you got half the dam from this cup and half the dam from this cup, and you mix it together. And you clearly see over there that when you have half of the dam half of the amount of water you need for the mechatas in one, and half of the mechatas you need in the other, and you pour the mechatas, you pour the ashes in, then you mix them together. That's not going to be good for mechatas. You have to have all of it at one time. So the given is that by the mechatas you need it all to be in one at the same time. The question is, what about dam? Do you say that the reason that it all needs to be in one cup at the first moment by mechatas is halacha l'moshe misinai, and you can't extrapolate that to dam because halacha l'moshe misinai lo gamrinan? O dilma asamai taimach detiv v'taval b'mayim, as Rashi explains. It doesn't say v'taval b'mayim, v'taval b'mayim. You need to be tovel in the mayim, behamayim. What's the mayim? The mayim that was always there, i.e., the mayim that was in one cup the entire time. And if that's the reason, v'taval b'mayim, that's why you need it to be in one cup the entire time by mechatas. I could say the same thing by over here. Hachanamik si v'taval badam. You could say badam behadam, the dam that was in one cup the entire time. Says the Gemara, Tashma dam Rav Zikram Razolar af bedam lo kidesh. We have a Tashma that he clearly learns the second way that you're going to learn from. It's not because halacha l'moshe misinai by the mechatas. It's because it says be mai or ba mayim. Therefore, bedam badam. So too over here, if you mix them together, and that's going to be our Mishnah. That's what it's excluding. That if you mix them together, and then you go ahead and you get it on yourself, you don't have to go ahead and do kibbutz. Amar Rava Tanya v'taval v'lo misafeg badam achehir bedam shir tefila meikaro min adam shebeinyan. Says the Gemara, what are the three things? V'taval, he dips his finger, v'lo misafeg. That means when the Kohen's about to do the hazaya, he needs to go like this and dip his finger. As we mentioned before, he can't put his finger and wipe around the outside of the bowl. He needs to dip directly into the bowl. V'taval, badam. It has to be bedam shir tefila meikar. That's the lima that we're saying here. You can't have two separate amounts and then mix them together. It needs to be badam, behadam. It has to be the right amount that you collect right away from the beginning in a kli shares. Min hadam, you have to take min hadam shebeinyan. What does that mean? It's rech lemechtav bedam di chas v'rachmana v'taval hava min afpich leka shir tefila meikar o chas v'rachmana bedam. So like we said, badam teaches me you have to collect all of it into a cup at once. V'chas v'rachmana badam hava min afilu misavei chas v'rachmana v'taval. V'taval tells me I need to dip each time and I can't go ahead and take the leftovers from the walls of the bowl. Min hadam shebeinyan l'mutame. What is this talking about? Min hadam shebeinyan. You take the dam of the inyan. What does that mean? Amarava l'ma'ute shirayim shebe'etzba. Mitzayel Rabbi Lazar, Dam Rabbi Lazar, shirayim shebe'etzba psulin. It has to be the shirayim shebe'etzem. What does that mean? That when you say badam min hadam shebe'inyan, that means that every time you dip, either you're dipping 4 times, let's say, or you're dipping twice, you're dipping 7 times, that teaching me that when I dip, I go like this, I dip, I throw whatever blood I need to throw. Now when I dip again, it needs to be min hadam shebe'inyan. That needs to be new dam. So what do I need to do with my finger before I dip again? I need to wipe it off. I wipe off the blood from my finger. Now I go ahead and I dip again. I have fresh blood, and I go ahead. Because if I wouldn't wipe it off, then I'd have shirayim on my hand. If I have shirayim on my hand, and when I dip it in, and I throw the shirayim, then I'm going to be throwing partly shirayim and partly nudam, and that's not going to work.
Okay. I'm near the avir of your shirt. You ready to go?